Wait, hold on. We're going to stop that again. I need you to say your name. I didn't ask you before we went live, and that's a problem on my part. Ryan, say your full name for me.
Ryan Lavarnway.
Lavarnway. I knew it as soon as I said it. Ryan Lavarnway and I met through our heroic public speaking program and a group that was started after that. We are both public speakers and we are both on a mission to help build performance through resilience. His keynote is all about the why not mindset, and he has a really exciting workbook coming out soon. Ryan is an Olympian, a 10-year Major League Baseball veteran, and a World Series championship with the Boston Red Sox. Since retiring from playing, Ryan transitioned into keynote speaking as well as consulting on leadership, taking things from the baseball field into the boardroom. His view transcends the world of sports, and he is dedicated to fostering a winning mindset, which offers audiences a roadmap to unlock their full potential. Ryan, thanks for being here with me today, and thank you for helping me correct your surname.
Yeah, you're not the first person to mess that up, and you won't be the last. So I'm happy to spend some time with you today.
Thank you. So, you know what? I'm really glad we were able to do this. Today is a great day to dive into sports performance and psychology and how that translates into the things we do every single day. I was literally talking about that this morning with a client of mine where we were talking about high performing teams and often the conflicting goals that come into play if every single person is trying to be the star player or we're telling everyone that they should be the star player. So I'm really curious, what was it about this your sports background that got you to the why not mindset? And can you please explain what that is for our audience?
Sure. So the why not mindset started for me in my senior year of high school. And if I back up a couple years from that before I get there, I decided when I was 5 that I was going to play in the major leagues, right? Like
Awesome.
I was a bad sharer in kindergarten. My kindergarten teacher said Ryan needs to get involved in a team sport, so my parents brought me out to baseball. And from the minute I stepped on the field, I was like, I'm going to do this for the rest of my life. I'm going to be a big leaguer. Much like most 5-year-olds do have this crazy idea, right? But nobody ever told me it was crazy. And that first season, I made like the 5-year-old all-star team. So I guess I had potential. And just in my head, I was always going to make it and I was always going to figure it out. So when I was 6, I made the 6-year-old all-star team. And then when I was 8, I made the 8. So there was like steps along the way, right? And I think this is how all people should operate is that you had to have the big goal, but then just focus on the next step to get there. So when I got to high school, the next step was like make the varsity team. Easy enough. We moved into this new school district so I could play at the best high school baseball team in LA. And the problem with that is I wasn't good enough to play on that team.
Hmm.
And I was, we've never met in person, Sarah. We've known each other for a few months now, almost a year. I was 5'4", 135 pounds as a sophomore in high school.
Wow.
And you can't. I'm seated right now. I'm a foot taller than that now. 100+ pounds more than that now. But as a sophomore in high school, I'm trying to make the best high school team, and I'm too small. I'm not good enough. So I started having like this huge dream, and my reality were just getting farther and farther apart. And finally, before my senior year, we're stretching on the cracked blacktop basketball courts overlooking the baseball field, and I think I'm probably doing a quad stretch, holding my foot behind me and like arm up, right? You,
Yeah.
you can imagine this. And our coach asks, "Who's going to hit fourth for us this year?" And if you know anything about baseball, the fourth hitter is the best hitter on the team. And I knew it wasn't me, but I was so desperate for this man to like just notice me and any approval whatsoever that I raised my hand, and it was crazy. Maybe it was because my hand was already raised with the quad stretch, but I raised my hand and I said, "Well, it could be me. I could hit fourth this year." And he just looked at me, crossed his arms. He was that coach that made you run sprints when you won and when you lost because
Yeah.
you should have done better. And instead of belittling me, he just said, "Why not you?"
Hmm.
And that's what did it. Like it's the simplest 3-word question. My 2-year-old daughter asks me all the time, like, why not?
Yeah.
But in that moment when I was have sitting there with a head full of doubts and very aware of my own limitations, he unlocked the ability to overcome all of those hurdles in my own head.
I love that. And what a reminder that very often the things that was probably a throwaway comment from his side. It was not like he was sitting there like, I'm going to make a real big impact. I'm going to say this thing and be really profound. He was just like, huh, yeah, why not you? And that then became this pillar, this foundation upon which you built a philosophy and a mindset in the way that you showed up in the world.
Yeah.
And so, what that tells me is that that's a real reminder that words are powerful, they create a reality,
Yeah.
and we don't always get to see or feel or know the impact that we're having, but we are always having one.
He saw potential in me that I didn't see yet. And as I've grown up, as I've mentored young men and women, and as I coach now, I always try to help other people see the potential in themselves that they might not see yet. Because for me, it was life changing.
Yeah. And very often, I just watched something yesterday a friend sent to me, and it was this idea of borrowing the belief from somebody else,
Mm,
right? And so you may not believe in this thing or yourself or the fact that this can happen, but you see that somebody else does and you really respect them. And then that gives you that willingness to try. And that's exactly what coaches are there for.
yeah.
They're there because they've walked this path, they've seen what's possible. They've experienced it themselves. They have seen the different iterations of resistance, of skill, of the seeming impossible become possible. And so much of it is just up here,
Yeah.
particularly when it comes to sports, right? Of course, there's natural born talent, but training and discipline and consistency will outperform natural talent any day of the week over time.
100%. 100% it will. Yeah.
Yeah. Because the people who are naturally gifted, what do they do when they don't do well?
There's a big part of me that thinks that one of the reasons I ended up being so good in the end and being able to overcome a lot of the hurdles that came up in my career later is because I wasn't always the biggest and the strongest and the fastest. So
Absolutely.
I built that necessity. I built that need for myself to work harder than everyone else. And when we were in the gym running sprints or doing suicide runs, whatever,
Mhm.
like I always ran harder and finished first in all of the stuff that wasn't baseball because I needed to. I needed to find a way to stand out. So I always worked harder. And then when I got bigger and stronger and better as a player, I still kept that work ethic.
Absolutely. When you're naturally gifted at something and then it stops working, or you try something else and you're not good at it. It's just human nature. We don't do it, right? We're just like, I'm not good at that. I'll focus somewhere else.
Yeah.
And then so frustration comes into play a whole lot more as well. So with this why not mindset, you get this in school as you're 5'4", right? Going after the biggest baseball team and then setting this like really audacious goal, getting that belief in you from somebody else, borrowing their belief in you. Was there a turning point? Was it a conscious turning point for you when you started to believe that it might be possible? Or did you just keep focused on the next step, the next step? How do I improve? How do I get better? And then all of a sudden something happened and maybe it was a surprise.
Yeah. So it's kind of a combo for me. I think his words echoed in my head a lot over the next few months. So anytime I was in the batting cage and I started comparing myself to the players around me that had college scholarship offers, were going to Cal State Northridge or
Mhm.
UCLA or UNLV, all these great baseball schools. And I was signed up to go to Yale, not a great baseball school. More, more U.S. presidents than big league baseball players. So I was comparing myself to them, and I was like, you know what? Why not? Why not? It's that rebelliousness started building
Mm.
in my heart and in my soul. And then when we started to play the other teams in our league and playing meaningful games, I would get up in these big situations. And I still remember the first time I was ever on TV as a baseball player, I hit this massive home run against our rival school. And that's when I was like, man, it's working. This audaciousness, to be the one that can change the game, this belief that this why not me, it really started to come out. And then I really started buying into, well, all I needed to do was give myself permission to be this game changer. And
Mm.
all the work I've been putting in, all the hard work, all the extra hours, now the talent has the chance to catch up.
I love what you said there. Give yourself permission.
Yeah.
Yeah, so many of us don't do that. We don't allow ourselves to go after something or to dare to hope, to dare to dream, and we self edit.
There's a there's this thing that I've learned is that the more intelligent you are, like the more self-aware you are, you end up realizing, well, like, who am I to be special? You understand how special everyone else is, and you see how big the world is and how amazing things have been done before, and it's humbling because you're smart enough to realize it. But then there's something to be said for, there's a lot of athletes and baseball players that are just dumb enough to not realize that.
Right? It's that the conscious incompetence, right? We're aware we're not that great. Okay, we start getting good conscious competence.
Yeah.
But there's still sometimes unconscious competence. Like they're not aware that they're that great, or they're just not aware that there's other greatness out there too. And both can serve and both can limit, right? Depending on the context and the situation. A lot of people talk about pros and cons, right? Which typically brings a connotation of positive and negative. I always like to frame it as how does this thing serve me and how does it limit me?
Hmm.
Because there's two sides to the coin. And the same thing that can serve you can also limit you. This is why very often we find that our weaknesses are tied to our strengths.
Yeah. The obstacle is the way.
Absolutely. So, the way I like to illustrate this is okay, Ryan, do you like to laugh?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, laughing's great, right? Releases endorphins. It's fun. I'm sure your daughter loves to laugh. She's 2, bunch of giggles, right?
Oh yeah.
All right. Wonderful. Would you like to laugh 24/7?
Oh no.
Right? And as soon as I put it in that context, you're like, oh, right. Yeah, there's way more to life than laughing. There's a whole other range of experiences that I'd rather go after. And so if you're laughing, that can serve you in some ways. But if you laugh 24/7, it would severely limit you. You'd probably be tired. People might think you're, like the Joker. You might scare yourself. So there's a lot of granularity to dive into with that. But as soon as we stop making things right or wrong, or like that's bad, I should never do that or feel that, then we can start to actually have more powerful inquiry with ourselves of, is this going to help me get better?
Mm.
Right? If this running test is not necessary for baseball, but yet I'm still going to exceed expectations with it, how is that going to serve me? Right? How is that going to help me in the long run with my big, hairy, audacious goal, as some of the corporate speak likes to say?
I feel like I always had the ability to figure things out. And I think that's an underrated skill.
Oh,
Is the fact
absolutely.
that I can figure it out and I'm gonna do everything it takes, everything that's required to get it done. So I think running those sprints and winning and taking the extra batting practice or whatever it was my version of figuring out how to make this team, figuring
Mm.
out how to continue to get better, and then being willing to do the thing that nobody else wants to do.
Yes. And that's what you just said right there hits the nail on the head. If you are willing to do the thing now when others won't, you'll be able to do the thing later that others can't.
Yeah.
And that is so powerful in leadership because it's not always fun in games, right? Sometimes you've got the mud, sweat, and tears and the blood and the gore happening, and it's still for the greater good. It's going to help. But in the moment, it doesn't feel great. In the moment, it might feel, I'm sure sometimes, when you discipline your daughter, you don't want to do that. You just want to give her everything and make her happy and smile and, cuddle her. And at the same time, if you don't have the discipline, if you don't keep her accountable, if she doesn't go to bed on time, there's going to be consequences to that. Right?
Yeah, I'm not the big disciplinarian.
Are you the fun one?
Your point is well received, yes.
Absolutely. Well, what I heard from what you were just saying is that figure it out,
Yeah.
right? So many of us get really hung up on what do I do? How do I do it? How do I know if I'm making the right decision? When in actuality, there is no right or wrong decision because the environment is always changing. You're going to have different context and you need to bring in discernment, right? The nuance might be different in different scenarios. So, how do you, instead of trying to decide for 10 steps later or 100 steps later,
Yeah.
what is the next best decision with the information you currently have that is available to you?
Yeah.
And how do you show up for that and make powerful choices? And then when you do that, you don't have to worry about the how. You don't have to worry about the minutia and all of these little things that you think you need because you know that when whatever happens, you have a skill set to figure it out.
Yeah, I think about this in two metaphors that maybe one's a metaphor and maybe not, the other one's not. But I heard this one from Mace Curran. If you know her at all, she's
Yeah,
awesome.
she and I are good friends. She's awesome.
I heard her say one time, when you fall out of the boat, fight the alligator that's closest to you first.
Yeah.
And that was like, oh yeah, that's the only one you can fight right now. And then also, there's a lot of alligators, you're in trouble anyway. But I think about that a lot, and I also think about the idea of the pace of change is not slowing down.
No.
Think about how humans moved through the world. It was first they walked, and then they rode horses, and then they developed this horse-drawn carriage, and that was the modern transportation technology for 2,700 years. There
Right.
was minor updates. But then in the last 150 years, we got the car, we flew to the moon. I have 14 airplane flights this month, and now I can look at your face through the computer. It's not slowing down, it's speeding up. So if you believe that you can figure it out, that all that matters is getting to the next step, and you're willing to do everything it takes to get to that next step, no matter what happens in the world, you'll be just all right.
Absolutely. And you will be able to be calm and confident in showing up because that is a skill set. And when we hide or when we give our sovereignty away and abdicate responsibility, it might feel safe in the moment. You can probably see my dog lounging on this couch behind me. Like, what a life over here.
We
I
are in a
travel a
home.
lot too. Like, what I'm paying rent for her, basically. She's a domesticated dog. But if I go away, she panics, right? It's like, oh, where's my safety? Who's going to make decisions for me? Who's going to feed me? Who's going to do all these things? And that's exactly what happens to humans when we give up our power and our autonomy to outside forces because we want safety. It's only perceived safety, anyways,
Yeah.
right? I mean, all you have to do is look at the stock market right now to understand that what we once thought was true may not necessarily be true.
Yeah.
And, the past is not a predictor of future performance or future anything. So, instead of living in this constant projecting ourselves forward into some unknown future that probably won't even happen, coming up with all these scenarios. Now, that might be your job. You might be forecasting, you might be modeling, you might be dealing with private jets who change their schedule all the time and have to forecast how you're going to resolve these changes. Great. That serves you in that role. But when it comes to showing up for life, you will be exhausted if you attempt to try to control that many variables and what if situations moving through the day.
Both fear and confidence rely on believing in something that hasn't happened yet.
Hmm.
Why wouldn't you
Yeah.
choose confidence?
Oh, I got chills with that. Yeah. Why not?
Why wouldn't you choose to believe in the power of possibility?
What we were saying before we went live, so many people are caught in that whirlpool of what if. And they're like getting sucked under by this riptide, this current that they feel they have no control over. And that's true. There is no control over some things. And so I like to switch that to imagine if,
Mm,
because that taps into that creative possibility,
yeah.
right? And when we imagine, we think of kids, we think of, Disney World and like all of these amazing things that could happen. It's the other side of the coin, right? It's tapping into that confidence. And where we put our attention, like when you're driving a car, when you're riding a bicycle, when you're learning how to do that for the first time, they always say you have to look to where you're going. If you stare at the trash can while you're on the bicycle, you're going to run into the trash can.
Sarah, I did this really bad when I was learning how to ride my bike.
Really?
I didn't look at the trash can. I looked at my front wheel to make sure I wasn't going to run over anything, and I slammed right into an open car door. My dad still makes fun of me for this.
Yeah. Yeah, when we put our attention too close to something, we're going to miss signals. If it's too far away, we're also going to be blindsided by things because we're like locked into the target and missing other cues. You just reminded me of a time I went scuba diving, and the dive master saw that my friend and I were both dive with Patty rescue divers, right? So this person was going for the rescue certification. There are certain drills that you have to do that if you're just an open water diver, you may not be, it might kind of scare you, or it may not be something that you're comfortable with. So since we already went through the training, he let us know what was going on. Us if we could contribute, we said absolutely. And I then was the unconscious diver, right? I had to go and swim away, and be far enough away they couldn't visibly see me. And then the person that was being tested had to use their compass and do a search pattern. Once they found me, there was a certain sequence of steps to follow. This person had their watch like this and their compass, and they were staring at it. And then they would see, oh, I went 10 meters. Okay, now I'm going to turn this way and go 10 meters. He literally got a foot away from me underwater, didn't lift his head up once or look around once to like actually check for where the person might be, because he was so focused on following the search pattern exactly
Right.
as it was written, right? And so I was just like, okay, he ran into me, right? So then he finds me. But it's that same thing. He was so locked in to looking at this one thing that the point of the exercise was completely lost. And that's a great analogy, metaphor for life. Like we do that all the time.
I heard a great quote from I think it was Bezos. He said, "Be strict with the destination, but be flexible with how to get there."
Yeah.
Because if you were going to write a recipe for a 5-year-old on how to get to the major leagues as a baseball player, he would have gone to my high school, but he would not have gone to Yale, right? He would have gone to El Camino Real High School or Chatsworth. Those are the two good schools. Then he would have gone to USC or UCLA,
Yeah.
right? Or Vanderbilt, or any of these great programs. But I had to veer over here because that was my only chance.
Yeah.
But I didn't let it distract me from where I ultimately wanted to go. Same with anyone else. Like if you want to be a speaker, I've just been building my speaking career for the last year and a half. I did a speech for $18 one time. It was not on purpose, right? But I did a speech for $100 and a pair of New Balance sneakers, right? Like you gotta get there the way that you get there, and as long as you have the destination in mind, you can veer off, you can branch, you can follow opportunities and still be headed in the right direction.
Absolutely. It doesn't need to look a certain way. And it's only when that starts to become our mindset that we get locked into an outcome, a very specific outcome. And that attachment then prevents us from being open to other things that might actually be what gets us to our ultimate goal, right? When we say yes and to life, which is also a big philosophy for speakers,
Yep.
for improv, like you're going with the flow of life. You're going with, okay, this is happening. And what else? Like, is it taking me, maybe it's veering me over here, but I'm going to learn something over here. Okay, great. And this is satisfying some of the needs that I have. And like, this is kind of fun. Maybe you'll discover for yourself something new. Like, I just discovered that in January, I was the interviewer for a docu-series with a client in New Zealand. And I am used to being in front of the camera and on the stage. And yet here I am now behind the scenes, and it unlocked this creativity because I was like, man, what scene? Oh, you know what? Tie your shoe, or let's be walking. Like, okay, you pan out here. Let's get the drone shot. And all of a sudden, it was like this really creative process came out of me. And I was like, wow, I didn't even know that was in there. Like, I would have never named that. It was just something that the client said, like, hey, could you do this? Because, you have a podcast, you ask people questions. So maybe you could help us with this. And I'm so glad I said yes. It was so much fun. And it's leading to some more opportunities of the same nature.
That's
But that whole, what you just mentioned, like this roadmap, if
hmm
you don't know where you're going, any road will get you there, right? So you'll be aimless and you might not actually feel like you're accomplishing anything. It's also okay to change the destination if you do that consciously, right? But I remember very clearly having a boss, a mentor very early on in my career saying, okay, my job is to help you get from the start of the road to the end of the road. I don't care how you get there. I'm like the bumpers on the side of the freeway that vibrate the car and make the sound. So if you start to go off track, I'm going to nudge you back onto the road. And if you want to like zigzag and drive this weird slow way, that's fine. And if, you're kind of too far back, I'll be behind you to give you some extra, like, push the what is it? The night is that no nitrous is scuba diving. What's the in like Fast and Furious?
I think it is nitrous.
Is this also nitrous?
Nitrox is scuba because
Yes.
I got that certification too.
Okay, great. So I'm not I'm not confusing it, but yeah, and that really stuck with me because it's like, how do we create an environment where people can discover, they can play,
Yeah.
learn like we do when we're little, and figure it out for ourselves, so that when we do get there, we also have that agency of, hey, I mean, I was a part of causing this to happen. It wasn't just that someone told me what to do, because that never resonates. I mean,
Yeah.
now that we all have ChatGPT and everything in our phone, if not many people can retain the same skill set that we used to have to learn and figure out and discover. But now we're learning and discovering new things, new ways of learning. Like there's an elevation to it, and so yeah, that's a really great way to think about things. Is have your end destination in mind, but have fun along the way. Like maybe you have a side quest or a side trip and you decide, hey, I don't need to go to Disneyland next week. I can go in 2 weeks. And I'm going to go over here to Harry Potter World. I'm not speaking for myself when I say that at all.
I haven't been to Harry Potter World yet.
I have been to platform 9 3/4 in London
Okay.
and the store. And
Is it like worth the trip or no?
I mean, I was in London for work, so it was. I'm not sure if they have a Wizarding World of Harry Potter in London. I believe they do. I mean, surely they would, because that's where it was filmed and takes place and everything. But um, I had a great time. It was great, and everyone that I know that has been to the Wizarding World of Harry Potter at Universal Studios is delighted and pleasantly surprised by the experience. I did. They had in Austin last fall. It was this haunted Forbidden Forest experience. And so there was music and sound, and you could have a wand and wave it and things would happen. Just these little surprise and delight factors. I went into it thinking it might be a little like more for kids and just like, maybe it's kind of a marketing thing. And I was delighted. Like I had the best time. And it was great. And so I think that's another thing, is like we can allow ourselves to play and be delighted by the small things in life. And if once we tap into that, that helps us with this whole why not imagine if conversation. Because somewhere along the way of trying to be a responsible adult, or, be a business person who's got their head on straight, we forget about those things.
I had spring training in Orlando when I was with the Braves, and it's on campus at Disneyland. And I don't know why we didn't go to the Harry Potter one. Well, maybe when my daughter grows up a little bit, we'll go.
Well, it is Universal Studios, it's not Disney. So that might be why.
Maybe.
You can use that as an excuse. But it's also, you just raised an excellent point. Very often, when something is very easily available to us,
Mm,
we don't take advantage of it, right? Like all of the, I went to high school in Sedona, Arizona. I went to the Grand Canyon twice when I lived in Illinois. And then once I lived in Sedona and I went to Embry-Riddle and Prescott. I went to the Grand Canyon once because somebody was visiting and I took them there.
yeah.
Right? It's like when it's in your own backyard, you don't appreciate it, you don't go, or you're like, "Oh, I have time. I can do that anytime." And so many of us are seeking that like outside, far away adventure when very often it's within our own four walls, it's within our communities, it's within our own
Yeah.
neighborhoods.
There's something here. Let's double click on this, even though we're just rambling now, because this is fun. So I have had the hardest time getting speaking gigs in Denver, even though I live here. But I speak all over the country. I was on 92 planes last year,
Yeah.
speaking everywhere. And my rabbi, and I only mention that he's a rabbi because it's relevant. Um, he said, even in the Bible, Jesus was not a prophet in his own town. Right? Again,
Mhm.
rabbi's telling me this. Um, so there's something there. I'm noodling on some ideas for a book to write, and my current thought process is both, right? Like two things not only can be true but need to be true in a lot of cases. And
Yeah.
for this particular idea, it's like, well, be a hero and be a human, right? Like, be the best version of yourself. Be someone that people will look up to, that gives people an example that they can be confident, but also like be a real person because
Yeah.
you have flaws that you can recognize, that you can work on. Um, I don't know. What do you think? Where does this land for you?
Oh, you know what? I'm so glad you double clicked on that because I literally was having this exact conversation with my partner in the car, literally not even 2 hours ago.
Okay.
And it's why, so the synchronicity of the universe always makes me shake my head because, whether you just had the conversation hours ago or the day before you had that thought, here it is, all roads lead to Rome, right? So we're tapping into something bigger here. But Khalil Gibran's book, The Prophet, have you read that?
I'm not.
Fantastic book. It's a classic. It is all about the journey of having to go away to these faraway lands only to return home and realize everything you were seeking you already had. But it was only in that seeking and in that exploration and leaving could you discover that.
Mm.
And so it's really poignant because so many of us do it. I mean, I left Sedona and I went back after a couple of years of being abroad and I was at like in my hometown for Christmas and I saw some people doing the same thing they were doing 10 years ago and I was like, "My God, what are you doing? Like what?" And I was kind of on a high horse about it, because I was like off living this great life in Asia and doing all these things. Meanwhile, now I go to Sedona, I'm like, "Oh, my phone doesn't work. I get to go on the ranch and it's like really quiet and I just get to do the same old thing and it's wonderful." Right? But I had to go and experience all these other things that I thought I wanted and chase after that and experience to come back to have that realization and to realize that what you want and what I want are very different things, and that is okay.
Yeah. Well, I think that I've heard that. What do you call it? The story of needing to leave and in the process of coming back.
Oh, the hero's journey. Yeah.
Yeah, the process, the place doesn't change. You changed. Like,
Hmm.
you when you came back, it's not like the place has changed and now you have this great appreciation for it. You gained the appreciation because you changed.
Yes. Well, it's the Epictetus quote, right? A man never steps in the same river twice, for he's not the same man and it's not the same river.
Yeah.
Both things are true. And also in the West, we are obsessed with the hero's journey. Look at all the movies, TV
Yeah.
shows, like the overcoming something, right? Um, Life doesn't always require that. And we grow through adversity and we grow through overcoming.
Yeah. Have you read Trevor Moedd's book, It Takes What It Takes?
No, but I'm going to
Ooh,
write
this
that
is my
down.
favorite mindset book. There's two specific ideas he says in this book. I don't know what the rating level is for language on this podcast.
It's rated R. So you're free to be yourself and express it however you desire.
Well, so the first one is, there's no bad words. The first part of it is, you don't have to be sick to get better.
Mm-hmm.
What you just said makes me really lean on, um, the hero's journey, the going through adversity. You don't need to go through what other people would recognize as adversity to, number one, see it as adversity yourself, or to
Yeah.
come out on the other side stronger. There's so many speakers that are amputees, and it's so obvious the struggles they've been through and the overcoming story. It writes itself.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a straight white guy that played baseball in the big leagues and got to compete in the Olympics. I had my own version of adversity, right?
Right.
But some people may look at me and be like, dude, you weren't good enough in high school, boo hoo.
Right.
But like for me, that was my thing. You don't have to be sick to get better. You don't have to go lose a leg to go through adversity and come out on the other side. So it's number one, it's all about what you make it. And
Absolutely.
you can get better and work towards being the best version of yourself without tragedy.
Yes. It's
The
all
other
it's a story, right? Because
yeah,
most people live inside a story.
yeah. The other thing that he says that does have a sort of bad word in it is stop saying stupid shit out loud. I love this idea.
Yeah.
If you've ever heard of it, it's the idea that negativity is more powerful than positivity, and things that you say are more powerful than the things that you just think. So if nothing else, you just stop saying negative stuff out loud, your life will be better.
Absolutely. Like you're literally creating sound and vibration when you speak. You are so if you're constantly creating negative, and again, where you put your attention, that's what you're going to focus on.
Yeah.
Our brains, have you heard of the reticular activating system, the RAS?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. It's like you buy a red sports car, all of a sudden everybody has a red sports car. I'm like, where did they come from? They were always there. You just weren't tuned into that frequency. Or a woman who becomes pregnant, and now all of a sudden she sees all the other pregnant women. And it's like they were always there. You just didn't tune into that. A lot of people who, as they start to age, they start to feel that they're more ignored by the younger generation. And it's true. I mean, I was at an Easter gathering a couple of years ago, and you see like all the cousins and everybody milling about and everything. And then I see like 95-year-old grandma over here, just kind of sitting on the bench by herself, the world passing by. It's almost like she was in this different time, right? Like a different timeline. And then the little toddler, like kind of teetering by her and then pausing and looking at her. And they just had this really sweet moment engaging with each other. And it was like the world was passing by around them, not even aware that this was happening. And it like lives forever in my memory because that's exactly, what we do. We rush around. We think we need to do all these things. Um, and we can simply like allow ourselves to tune into something different. So by stopping the negative talk out loud and refocusing that on like, well, what is working well, right? There's always going to be things that can be improved, of course. But what's working well? Like how did that happen? So how can I recreate more of that? So many times even in businesses, we do quality control, we do damage control. Oh, we had an incident or an accident. Why did that happen? Let's dig into it. But are we going to the same length of granularity for the success?
Mm.
Probably not. So then how do you recreate it? From a sports performance background, what's your take on that?
So this is an exercise that I do with our Spark Brilliance training. There's a leadership training that I do. I partnered with a woman here in Denver who's been doing it for 25 years, and this was one of the first ventures I got involved in after my playing days were over because we had a personal relationship. So she brought me on board. She calls it the reverse roadmap,
Okay.
and you think about a skill that you're proud of now, right, or something you've accomplished, and you look back, you're like, well, how did I get there?
Mm.
So think about public speaking. It's something easy. It's something that we share. It's also something that 70% of people are terrified of.
Yes.
Right. So you and I, we get up there on stage, we talk in front of thousands of people, make an impact, and hopefully give them something to make their lives better. But it didn't start there. It started by coming up with what you wanted to say in the first place, and then you wrote a script, and then maybe you practiced in the mirror or practiced on video and analyzed it, and then you got some peers or you spoke to a smaller group that could give you feedback. Maybe you hired a coach, and then you spoke to, you had your first paid gig, and you made $18 on a pair of New Balance shoes, and then eventually, right? All these steps along the way. So what we do for people is we have them do their own version of this.
Mm.
Did you take a class? Did you seek out a mentor? Did you get a certification? Did you get a different job that then led to this job? And then once you have people recognizing that they've followed this process before, you can replicate that same process
Mhm.
for a future roadmap.
Yeah, that's powerful. And what a gift to have people walk through that because it's a roadmap, it's not prescriptive, right? And so figuring those pieces out for themselves with some guideposts of how to uncover what those things are
Yeah.
is then what like gives us that emotional tie to it.
Yeah, because the baseball side of it is so obvious, right? The 6 and over all-star team, the 8 and under all-star team, the high
Yeah.
school team, the college team, the minor league team. It's so obvious. But I've always been willing to work my way up to the majors. Why wouldn't you be?
Well, and that right there is a question that I always invite people to ask themselves when they're facing resistance or they find that they're procrastinating on something over and over and over. Why does this keep getting put to the side? So let's use like you're trying to learn a language,
Mm,
right? Let's say you want to learn French and you're procrastinating. You're not doing the things, you're not showing up for class, you're not doing your homework. Okay. Instead of the classic excuse of I don't have time or I don't have money to hire a tutor, or I can only use the app and it's slow, replace that language with I'm not willing to do it. If saying I'm not willing to make time or I'm not willing to hire a teacher or I'm not willing to do the things required to get the result does not make you feel uncomfortable, probably this is not a goal that is in alignment for you any longer.
yeah,
Right? Maybe you set that goal 5 years ago and you just kind of like it just kind of lives there like a tab that's taking processing power.
yeah.
But if it makes you squirm in discomfort, well, guess what? That's still important to you. So now
Mm,
you can do something about it.
I love that. I
Yeah.
love that. That's so powerful. I've heard of I'm big on reframing. I've always
Yeah.
been big on reframing the situation, right? 75% of success in the world is going to be determined on your ability to see something that could be challenging or stressful as an opportunity. Like there's literal research behind this.
I mean,
So
this is where
replacing
pivot point came from.
I can't quote the research, but I know it's there. I could find it. I could find it if you really want to know. But replacing I can't with I'm not willing to is huge. I've heard replacing I'm sorry with a thank you is
Oh,
big. So
absolutely.
I'm sorry I'm late. Thank you for your patience. Right? It's the
It's
same.
expressing,
It's the same idea but different.
well, you're expressing gratitude and you're acknowledging that this person had some discomfort
Yeah.
and that they were inconvenienced. And so you're showing appreciation for that while also acknowledging that you were late. I just posted about this yesterday. Um, Again, both things can be true, right? When you are going to be late, instead of messaging and to stay in integrity, right? You should be in communication. You should not just show up 15, 20, 30 minutes late.
Yeah.
If you think it's going to be about 15 minutes, say 20 or 25 and say, hey, I'm going to be about 25 minutes late. So now when you show up 15 minutes late and you're earlier than what they expected, they're pleasantly surprised.
Well,
So,
that's sales too, right? Under promise, over deliver, even with your being late.
yeah, but and not in a sandbagging way,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
just
yeah.
in a way because human beings are extremely flawed at gauging time correctly. Like I was a chronic overbooker. It's a form of procrastination. There's a specific style of procrastination that ties into many other things. Um, and I would just be overly confident that like I could do these 10 things in a day or I could have these 10 meetings in a day. And then as soon as one thing gets derailed, the rest get derailed too. And then you're constantly playing catch up.
Yeah.
And some of that is people get addicted to the stress. Some people get addicted to that overcoming, right? For a long time, busyness was a badge of honor. But there's a lot of ways when we can get aware and conscious to the biases we have, the things that we do, the patterns, then we can set ourselves up for success in a much more powerful way while also acknowledging other human beings' experience of us. Ryan Leake is a really great leadership coach and excellent keynote speaker. And one of his questions is, how do other people experience me?
Mm,
And that is a powerful question because we don't really think of that very often.
yeah.
We're always so concerned about our experience and like how other things impact us.
Yeah.
And so to really sit there and look in the mirror, like honestly look in the mirror, it's a really powerful way to, use my own terminology, pivot your mindset and approach things from a different perspective.
Yeah. I follow Ryan Leak on Instagram. He's crushing it.
Yeah, I get his texts. He sends these little inspirational, motivational texts occasionally.
Okay.
And great. So let's see. Actually, I think he might have just, speaking of Ryan, he might have popped into my mind because I got one earlier today. Um, or maybe yesterday. I also get Corey Mascara. Do you know him?
I follow him too.
Yeah, he's great. But Ryan Leak's most recent message, if my phone, oh, you know what? It's not loading, so we don't need to know what it is. Um, but Corey's also does something a little, just these tiny little snacks, these little nuggets of wisdom. So you're busy, you're in your thing, and then you see this, and you just take pause for a moment and you contemplate it. And sometimes that's all you need to help you get off this track of rumination or the worry. And, there's always going to be more to do.
It's
There's
pattern
always,
interrupt.
absolutely. You only need 1 second to interrupt the amygdala hijack. So taking a deep breath, that's a through line through my keynote. Just breathe.
Yeah.
Next time, I invite everyone listening, and I invite you, Ryan, as well. When you're responding to emails or messages, pay attention to your breathing pattern and check if you're holding your breath.
Mm. Okay.
There's actually a new thing. It's not new anymore. It's over 10 years old now, but there's research that shows it's called email apnea. For some reason, because we're thinking, we're focused. And so we start to shallow breathe or hold our breath. And I have actually caught myself holding my breath as I'm typing. And then I'll remember, take a deep breath and like let it out, breathe in really deeply. And it's fascinating, and even though I'm aware of it, I still do it, still catch myself. It's a really fascinating phenomenon.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
It's cool to catch it. It's not cool that people are doing it.
No, exactly. Well, and like with anything, any new pattern that you are looking to establish in your life, just like as you were going through these different training protocols to get to a certain level for baseball,
Yeah.
right? Like with anything, it's about the reps.
Yeah.
And just because you know how to do something doesn't mean, I mean, we all know we shouldn't drink alcohol. We all know we shouldn't eat a ton of sugar. We all know we shouldn't be staying up till 4 a.m. watching, one more episode of The Last of Us or something like that. And yet it continues to happen, right? So it's just about being aware, setting yourself up for success, and being able to interrupt that pattern more quickly, or acknowledging, like, hey, you know what? I'm going to be tired tomorrow, and
Yeah.
that's okay. I am willing to accept those consequences, and I'm aware of it, rather than, living in the story of, oh, I don't know why I'm always tired, and all of the excuses that we give ourselves to try to get out of the responsibility of our own actions.
Yeah.
All right. Speaking of that, one of my questions I always like to ask my guests is, what is your superpower?
Ooh, I'm really good at not quitting. I'm, s-
Tenacity.
I'm so good at not quitting.
Do I hear stubborn?
It's probably the downside, right? Every light has a shadow.
Right.
Um, I like to test it just to prove to myself that I'm not going to quit. Right?
Mm,
Like I've done 2 half Ironmans and a full Ironman. Uh,
nice.
I'm signed up for like this crazy High Rocks thing this month that I had never heard of.
So type
Uh,
2 fun is what I'm hearing.
yeah, yeah, it's gonna be great. I like to just prove it to myself again and again because it's like meditative for me. Like it makes me feel good. It's the finish that makes me feel good.
Hmm.
I know you did that Tough Mudder recently, and I loved your
Yeah.
post about the Type 2 fun. You're the only person I've ever heard say that. So I know what that is because of you.
Oh, well, thank you.
Yeah,
And thank you for sharing that. Um, yeah, it's a term that I learned relatively recently. I knew I always enjoyed it. Like if I went and did a heavy workout before work when I used to work in the corporate space, whatever email that came in or some silly nonsense from a client or a team squabble, I'd be like thinking to myself, man, I lifted 100 kilos this morning. Like you guys, this is nothing, right? Like that was hard. This, like, let's just calm down, take a deep breath. We'll get through it. I didn't send me into this amygdala, the world is ending type of response. Um, but type 2 fun is really about proving something to yourself, proving that you're not going to quit, proving that you can do it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I use ChatGPT to help write me a training plan.
Okay.
Because in the past, even though I'm a competitive athlete my whole life in different sports and I know how to train, I know that rest is important, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I like to feel the endorphin rush. I like to push hard. I like to go for the long run. So, what would I have done? I would have gone for 10K runs every single day and probably given myself an injury. Instead, I followed, there was like a fitness PhD, science and nutrition GPT that I used. I said, this is my start date. This is a protocol I found online that really speaks to me. What else can I do to make sure I'm ready for this race? And it like created this plan and I followed it. And in the beginning, it was kind of like, is this going to work? I don't know, especially the deload week so hard. On that day of the actual race, my for the whole 15K time was a split of uh, like 5:30 per kilometer,
Nice.
5:32 per kilometer. When I started the training a few months, like 4 or 5 months before that, for 3 kilometers, I was at a 7.5 minute kilometer.
Wow.
So also shows me without a goal, I just kind of sandbagged it because I was like, oh, I did a run, but
Yeah.
I didn't really push myself, right? Like I wasn't really exploring the edge of my boundary. But as soon as I had a target to work towards, then I was more motivated to see, could I reach that mark? Could I exceed that mark? And I think that's just human nature.
Yeah.
Again, if you don't know where you're going, you just kind of go anywhere.
Exactly.
Right. So you don't quit. I got that. That's a really big superpower. Now, when we go through life, sometimes we doubt ourselves. Sometimes we're not sure. We want to know the how. We want some security. So we go and we talk to people, right? We have our board of directors. Who's on your personal board of directors?
Oh man. At this point, it's changed a lot from when I played, right? Because
And also, it doesn't have to be someone that you actually know. Just as a little extra twist to the game, this could be a lens that you adopt,
mm,
kind of like the what would Jesus do mindset. It could be an avatar, or it could be a character in a show, the philosophy that you really tie into. So it doesn't have to be actual people that you're communicating with, but it's rather
mm,
the philosophy that you're adopting to put that lens on life before you finalize your decision making.
mm. Well, I might need to put some more thought into it than putting dead time on your podcast. But first things that come to mind, Rocky Balboa
Nice.
is my persistence guy. I always answer that I'd love to have dinner with The Rock.
Mm.
Um, and I worked out with him a couple times 12 years ago, and he remembered my name one time, so that's
Oh my
always
God,
fun.
amazing.
He wouldn't remember it now, but his confidence and his like rise from nothing to biggest movie star in the world uh, through hard work and kindness is really admirable to me.
Yeah, I love that. That's a question that I haven't been asking, but since you brought it up, if you had a dinner party and you could only invite a handful of people, who are the people you'd want there? You could choose anyone.
Yeah, these are hard hitting questions. I always wanted to meet Babe Ruth. He's even in my background right now.
Yeah.
Um, I want to add some women in there, but Michelle Obama seems like a great one to be around. She's such an inspiration. I don't know.
Well, right now mine are Denzel Washington,
Okay, of
Keanu Reeves,
course.
Jane Fonda.
So you've thought about this more than I have.
Well, this just those two gentlemen have always been there. They're for a variety of reasons, but Jane Fonda I just saw was like arrested for protesting against climate change, and then it was this whole reel about through her career where she's been arrested, speaking out and being a voice for people's rights.
Yeah.
And that takes courage to stand up, right? And to say like, no, you're not going to put me in this box or not let me do something. So that's very top of mind. And then there's a few others, but I think that answer can change based on the mood and what you need in the moment, and that's totally okay.
Yeah, I
There's
want Keanu.
certainly,
I want Keanu at mine too. Keanu, I
yeah.
know kung fu.
He is just everything I read about him. He's just the epitome of an awesome human being. You know,
His answer on the Colbert Report about what happens when you die lives in my head rent free.
Yeah, same. And talk about um, not letting the story of your adversity be your story.
Yeah.
He shows up in the world in such a powerful way. And it's just, we don't need to cling to those things. We get to choose how we show up. We get to be neutral and be powerful in our own expressions, no matter what the world is doing, right? I mean, it's very chaotic right now. And we would have said that last year, and we would have said that the year before, 100 years ago, 200 years ago. It's always going to feel chaotic because it's different,
Yeah.
and because of the rate of change that you mentioned before, those, you know, times that feel stable are not as long because there's always some new change coming in.
Yeah.
So awesome. All right, final question. This is a fun one. Imagine that an alien, intelligent life form of some sort has arrived on Earth, and you, Ryan, are the first person that they interact with.
Oh boy.
So, what do they learn about humanity because they've interacted with you first?
Ooh, I'm a late adapter generally, so I would be very hesitant to be the first one to
You have
meet.
no choice in the matter. They've
I have
they,
no
they've
choice.
arrived. Yeah.
Oh boy. Maybe we'd have like a push-up competition and go out for some In-N-Out burgers. One of my biggest passions outside of like endurance competitions is food. So
Mine too.
if I was gonna share any piece of culture with someone, I would like to share food.
Awesome. Well, now I know what we're going to do when we meet in real life instead of through the computer.
Please.
I am a huge foodie.
I like a stadium hot dog for $1.50. Oh, I guess they're not $1.50 anymore at a stadium.
Right.
I love a Costco hot dog for $1.50 as much as I love going to a $2,000 meal that I feel guilty about paying for afterwards.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm just, yeah, and food brings people together too, and it's just, the different the delights that you can have. We gather on food, we gather around a campfire. Both of those are my favorite things. So we can definitely go to some foodie spots when we're in the same city.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Ryan, thank you so much for being here with me today. It's been a pleasure to dive in and weave through all of the conversation and really dive into the why not mindset. Thank you.
Yeah, this has been fun. I'm glad we finally got to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, if people want to know more about Ryan and what you do and how they might be able to work with you, where should they go?
Oh, please do. I am so easy to find. RyanLavarnway.com, Ryan Lavarnway on LinkedIn, R Lavarnway on Instagram. Uh, Please, I answer all my own messages, so reach out.
Amazing. All those links will be in the show notes. And I believe you have a journal coming out. Is that right?
I do. I just got the proof copy. You can see if you're watching the video, it says do not resell because this was just to make sure it is approved. But it should be out this week, certainly before this podcast comes out. The Why Not Journal. It's a great collection of resilience exercises. And journaling was a big part of my baseball career. And
Mm.
it helped me get to my best and recognize trends that I otherwise would have missed. Get my thoughts out on paper and get out of my own head. So it makes perfect sense for something that I would have used and that I'm going to use now that it exists. And I'm excited to share it with people.
Amazing. Well, I'm looking forward to getting my copy when it's ready. And we'll make sure to share the link when that's available as well in the show notes.
Awesome.
All right. Thank you, Ryan. And thank you to everyone who's been giving us a listen live. We love having you here. If you're listening to this episode later, please remember to like and subscribe and share it with a friend if you got any value. We'll see you next week. Awesome.